As you can see, the majority of our donations received were for regional ministries, ladies enrichment, men's retreat, youth camp. Those were the deposits that came in, and that was approximately 50%, 51% of the funds. And as you can see, 22% of the funds came from ministers' tithes that came in the region, 20% church tithes, 3% church ministry support. We received assistance from the North American Presbyter's Office, 2%, and then there's a other column, and that's mainly comprised of offering that we collected at our leadership conference in October, repayments we received then from local churches in which we gave assistance to, book sale proceeds, etc., etc. If you can please turn to the next slide. This is, are the slides turning? Yes, okay. If we can please turn to the next slide. That shows the tithes. I wanted to break that down to show that from the last convention year, 2015, the church tithes increased 20%, and I think that's a wonderful sign. And the ministers' tithes also increased 17%, and that's a wonderful sign. We see the light at the end of the tunnel, and by God's grace, next convention year, we'll be out of the tunnel. Amen? Amen, wonderful. So now we're going to discuss the main expenses for this year. Again, if you notice, the majority of our expenses were the payouts we did for ladies enrichment, men's retreat, youth camp, couples retreat, so on and so forth. And then we have the facilities expenses, mortgage, utilities, maintenance, property insurance. And then we have salaries, 16%, and that's comprised of the salaries for the regional overseer, the administrative assistant, as well as the treasurer. You see, we constructed a regional office this past year. That was 5% of the expenses. The Gloversville expenses, 5%. Travel, 3%. And that again comprised of travel from the overseer, administrative assistant, as well as the treasurer. We also have another category of 8%. And that's comprised of General Assembly offerings that we gave last year, regional office expenses, postage, photocopying, so on and so forth, bereavement offerings that the regional office sent out, assistance given to local churches, bank service fees, etc. So that's our statement of activity. The next report that I'm going to present on is the statement of financial position. Basically, if you can turn to the next slide. What that shows us basically is where we are as a region in terms of the assets we have and also the debt we have, what we have to pay out. So in the first line it says cash. What do we have in the bank? Cash we have in the bank, $66,465. Approximately $20,000 of that is set aside for ladies enrichment deposits that we receive in, men's retreat deposits, so on and so forth. So basically the region has approximately $47,800 to conduct regional business. Funds receivable, funds that are owed to the region. As of May 31st, it was $38,879. Since then, we've received over $21,000 back from churches that we had given assistance to, and that's wonderful. Properties that we own, the book value, $694,500, that comprise of the parsonage, the campsite, the Gloversville property, and so on and so forth. And we have other assets of $473. So our total assets, the book value of what we own, $800,317. Liabilities, our debts and obligations, what do we have to pay? The payable we have is $63,345, and that's for the fine, the outstanding fine for the Gloversville property. Mortgages that we have outstanding, $185,542. So our total liabilities, $248,887. Our net assets, $551,430. So that's where we are financially. If we can turn to the next slide, I just want to briefly highlight new initiatives that we launched this past year. Financial policies, financial budgets, and online giving. The new initiative of financial policies, we thought it was important to kind of document what we do, how we do it. Approval limits, how much the treasurer can spend without approval, the overseer. We documented all of that. Church assistance, guidelines, criteria in assisting local churches when they're in need. Bereavement, we've had a lot of our saints passed away this past year, and so we thought it was important to document how much can we give, for the passing of pastors, regional staff, families, and so on and so forth. Regional event controls, ladies enrichment, men's retreat. We spend a lot for these events, so we put policies in place in terms of reviewing the contracts, signing contracts, reviewing our budgets, just to make sure that we are in line and we're not overspending. This has been reviewed and approved by our finance committee, so it's in effect, and also we're working to create more policies. The next new initiative, financial budgets, specifically for our regional events. The next slide. Ladies enrichment, men's retreat, youth camp, children's day. We believe financial budgets help us to monitor our spending, so therefore we can increase our revenue / our income. Amen? And it has worked. We've used our budgets for past 2 events and we've come under budget. So that's a wonderful thing. Yes. Lastly, our online giving, which I'm excited about. A number of our saints and our ministers have been using this to send in their tithes, their free will offerings, register for ladies enrichment, register for youth camp online. To date, we've received over $40,000 in funds online through our website, lifewayegiving.org. And you can also give during convention online. We received text donations last night, which I was excited to see, and that's wonderful. And also we have credit card readers. We just want to make it more easier, more accessible for you as saints to give, amen, to support your region. And so last slide, all these 3 initiatives working together, we believe that these initiatives will help our region become fiscally strong and also be good stewards with what the Lord has given us. Thank you. You notice if I gave percentages and not dollar amounts. If you need more information, if you have questions, you can feel free to see me. I have data, I have reports available.
You have heard the reading of the Treasurer's report, and at this time, do you have any hard questions or easy questions, any objections, any concerns? Would you please stand and let it be known? I think there's a mic somewhere around here. If you have any questions, can I see a hand there? Would you please? Did you get to a mic? Can you voice it loud enough for us? Paying mortgage on the parsonage. We're still paying for, and we just paid off for the property of Gloversville. And as you have heard, we've had deficit spending this year, and a lot of that came about because of the Gloversville property that we're still paying for. And just a little history on that. We bought this property in the year 2000. That didn't work out. There's a large church in Gloversville where we have no constituents. We have no members there, but it was cheap. It was $60,000, so it was bought, and it just was a real headache from then up until now. And then we lost our tax exempt status on that, so then we have to be paying taxes for that. And then a few years ago, we unadvisedly took out the stained glass windows, and the property was under the purview of the Historic Society. So the city fined us $60,000. So that's where we at with that. And the sad thing with that is a civil judgment was brought against the church, and now the fine is added onto the current taxes, and so it's going up every month. So that's why we had our emergency meeting on Wednesday night with our ministry team to explain that to them, and that's why we're having this fundraiser, hopefully that we can clear that up. We're meeting with the state senator next week, and hopefully we can get some kind of reprieve from that, some kind of settlement. So we're asking the church to pray so that God will work some kind of miracle for us. Or if we have any rich saints, would you please write us a check to get us relieved from that. But going back to your question, we're still paying off for our parsonage. Balance on that is $162,000. So hopefully that should be paid off quite soon. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's where we live.
Yes.
Sister Ada.
Yes, Brother Overseer. I am not a hard person. I don't think so.
I know you're not.
But I feel in my heart that the persons who took those stained glasses should pay that bill. I don't think that is fair, that we should be stuck with the bill. And why didn't the committee know that those stained glasses were being removed?
Yes. Thank you, Sister Ada. I don't think the committee was aware that the building was historic, and so it was a mistake that was made. The windows have been located and put back in the church, but not replaced in their slots, because that will cost us about 20-something thousand maybe to put them back in. And of course the statute of limitation has already run out. So even if we put them back in now, as we were stipulated to do back then, and we didn't, it wouldn't help us at this point. But we hear what you're saying, and we just have to be merciful, and we as a church have to bear one another's burdens, and we have to deal with it. Of course, that happened quite a few years ago. So, but we do hear what you say. Yes, sir. Bishop Deacon Clark here.
In regards to that, one of the reasons for the windows, the place is being vandalized quite often, and because I was in Albany, I would have to go there and try to stop or salvage or protect, but it was a constant vandalizing. The young men would come, they would tear the outside, they would tear out the inside, they would break the windows, they would rip out the plumbing. It was tearing the building apart. And we thought maybe if we could do something to stop that, because the glasses, those stained glasses are very valuable. So that was one of the thinking. So as you said, we brought the windows back and we put them back in the building, but we still have a problem of vandalism. Constantly going in the building, people living in the building. And we don't get a lot of help from the city. They're not very cooperative to us, and they're not very helpful. So that's one of the reasons we're faced with constantly being harassed by the people that are there, the homeless, the thieves, the kids. It's an awesome building, but as you said, there's no one there to take care of it.
Thank you, Deacon Clark. And he has been very involved in helping us take care of this building over the years. So he kind of knows the history on it. Okay, Pastor Hayes.
Bishop,
Yes, sir.
in addressing why the committee didn't know why I say something. As far as I understand, the committee had no idea this was being done. Also, I think the purpose they were taking out, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was for expense, unadvised expense. You can correct me on that. Thank you.
I am not too aware of what transpired back then. That happened certainly before we came here. And All I know, I think there were good intentions involved, and they were hoping that they could have sold the windows and, you know, and salvage the whole situation. But that could be so. But the thing is, right now we're faced with this problem. You know, we have the building is up for sale right now. We're hoping to give it away if we can, but nobody wants to take it. Not even the city wants it back. We offered it back to them. And by right, they should have taken the building from us, for the taxes were not paid for quite a few years. We were blessed to pay up the taxes in February, and the only problem with that is now they think we have money. So they don't want to do any kind of settlement with us. But thanks to international offices, they helped us out with paying up the back taxes, and also this region, you've been so gracious in your giving, and we thank you so much. One of the good things about this report is we have seen a marked increase in the monies that are coming in from the churches, a 20% increase, and we give God praise for that. And the ministers' tithes have gone up by 17%. That's a blessing. So we really rejoice in that, and we're hoping we can do better. And also by tonight we have this big gathering, and we're hoping that we'll have enough funds to take care of ourselves more adequately. God bless you. We could probably take one more question, and because of time, but you do have my number, and you have the treasurer's number, and you can call anytime. If you need a copy of the report, we can get one to you. You can see Sister Heather, and we'll get a report on to you, a hard copy.
Brother Moderator Conference, Brother Reeves, Yonkers.
Yes, sir.
I like the convenience of online giving, but I'm just a little concerned about the fees. I'm wondering who gets those fees, if it's a company affiliate of a church or is it the bank, because I mean at 3% each time you pay your tithe, the church could use all that money. So I'm wondering, I know it's quite convenient and easier, but maybe the checks would be better. We give the church that 3% rather than the institution getting all that.
Keep in mind, this is an option. So if you choose to pay online or to donate online, it's an option. We've also added we've changed it where you have the control as to whether or not you would like to assist the region in paying that 3%. If not, if you do not want to pay the processing fee, there is a processing fee. And right now, there's a button. If you see, you say, yes, I will assist, I would like to assist the region, and you press the button or you unpress the button. I'm not sure right now, but there is an option. It's not mandatory, okay? So either way, we have to pay. If you don't pay the 3%, we'll pay the 3%. And again, it's an option. If you do not want to use the online, that's fine, you can send in your check. But it's again, a convenience, all right? It's a convenience. So yes, you do have to pay for convenience. And it's not coming to, the 3% is going to the online company that we're using. Okay, thank you.
Okay, one more question for the King, and then we must close off here so that we can carry on with our convention. Of course, our time is very restricted. Bless you, Brother King.
Winston King, New Rochelle. Question regarding the Earlton property, the camp. I'm just wondering how far we are in improving the camp. Now, I know it came in the report, and it's not a general question regarding the camp, but it was in the report. So,
Yes.
are we doing anything with it, making any kind of progress? Because
Yes.
some of the suggestion that we could have had that camp as a convention center,
Yes.
and we'd have to pay out thousands of dollars to other areas. So Is there anything?
Yes, that's still in the works, and we're looking for rich people like you to do us a job. You're going to hear more about that tonight. Generation Hope. No, that's the last one. Okay? So just yeah. So we are in the process of reviving our campsite, and the plan, as you just said, is to see if we can transition that into a conference and retreat center. We are in the process of getting some grants, and applying for some grants. And also we just met with the fire department of Earlton. They are wanting us to donate some land to them. We have 92 acres, so we don't mind doing that, but we want to do that conditionally. If they would tear down the cabins that are there and the big house, that could cost us way over $100,000 just to demolish those cabins and so on. So if we should give them some land, the agreement would be they must tear down the cabins for us. Only thing, in the big hall, there's asbestos there, so we're trying to get that remediated. So we are working on it, and you're going to hear tonight when the corporation speaks to us in Generation Hope. So this is the very last question. Bless you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is a question which I, as you said, he was the last, but I just deliberately want to put this question in. Back in the early church, where Paul said that he heard a murmuring in the church that the folks, the poor, weren't taken care of. So it was a concern for him. So therefore, there were no deacons then. So he gathered the people together, and he ordained deacons to take care of the affairs of the church and the widows and the orphans. What I understand is that the deacons have been ordained, but in today's church, the same problem is occurring because the needs of the people haven't been met. And as I heard that sister was elaborating and the compassion, taking care of the poor and so forth, but that hasn't been up to this moment.
Yes. So we're doing our best to make sure that our people who need assistance and help are being taken care of, and we're trying to raise the awareness of our church that one aspect of our mission is taking care of the poor and the less fortunate and being aware of the least of these. So we're hoping that that will be one of the takeaways from this convention, that this church needs to raise its compassion level and be passionately concerned about the less fortunate in our society, in our community, in our local churches. And we're hoping that our deacons and our ministry teams will be passionately concerned about that. So God bless you. Thank you so much. Do we have a motion for this report to be accepted? Can somebody rise and make a motion? Motion made by Deacon Clark for the report. Seconded. Wait, please, yes, go ahead. You see how we need to listen to people? Before she spoke. Thank you so much. And we are very proud of Sister Heather. She has come on board and helped us. And policy, even the budget proposals and so on have been just greatly appreciated by our FNS committee. And this church loves you, Sister Heather. Thank you so much. God bless you. All in favor of accepting the report, say aye. All who are not in favor, ayes have it.
Amen. There is a doctor in the house. Coming to us is Dr. Raymond Agard, Reynolds Agard, premier physician from Delaware. The bishop knows the doctor very well, and he's coming at this time to make a very special presentation.
This is his bio, but I'm not going to read it. I just want to tell you that this is my doctor, my physician from Delaware, all the way from Delaware. And he is our family physician. He is just an amazing, wonderful, kind, good Christian doctor man. Many times a few times, I would go in to have my checkup, and there were times when I didn't have my checkup. We would start talking, and then I think he would start preaching, and then he would say, "You are, let's pray." And he'd hold my hands, and he would pray. I thank God for him. He always wanted to be a medical missionary. So he does mission trips every year. I have his cell number. I call him even now. Sometimes he's in Costa Rica, and he'd answer a call. And I said, "Why did you answer?" He said, "Well, it could be somebody who is in need and real need." So I really thank God for men like him. His wife is also here, Lady Ingrid. They died at his hands. We love him dearly, and so he has come to help us. And I feel at every convention, we need to have a medical piece. And it's great that we can get it even from a Christian perspective. So could you stand, put your hands together, and welcome Dr. Reynolds Agard, and just give him a nice Northeast Region Church of God Prophecy welcome.
It's truly a privilege to be here this morning. And I want to say when I entered, I felt the presence of God in this place. But there is something about, I go throughout the United States and throughout the world to do medical missions and to even do programs like these. So when I got a call to come, I said, whatever the bishop says, whenever he says jump, I just say how high. That's how much I love him and his lovely wife. But what I must say, as I listen to, the program, as you present concerns for the immigrants, as you present concerns for the poor, you must be the people of God. This doesn't just come like that, because a lot of times, we get all we can and we can all we get and we sit on the lid. And even as the sister was talking about poor, I'm reminded that the Bible says that he that giveth to the poor, you lend to the Lord. And when you lend to the Lord, God owes you something. And we know the Bible said, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prosper. So I'm thankful for the opportunity that I could be with fellow Christians as we share concerns about health. And you know, any organization that really cares about its people cares about its health. And this is the reason why this is a part of this program. You know, I teach doctors in Delaware, and one of the things that we try to let them know, you know, we can give all the knowledge. God has blessed us these days. This is the age of information with a lot of knowledge. But I tell them that a lot of time, patients don't really care how much you know, but how much you care. There's a favorite story of mine. George Washington, one day he was riding with 5 other riders along the Potomac River. And in the distance, there was a stranger who wanted to get across the river. It was a cold December morning. It was freezing, the river was freezing. The only way to get across the river was on horseback. And as the 6 riders approached the stranger, you would think that if he really wants to get across the river, he would ask the 6 of them so that his chances can be improved that he could get across the river. So as the first rider approached, the stranger didn't ask him anything. The second rider passed by and he didn't say anything. The third and the fourth rider passed by and the stranger said not a mumbling word. Then the 5th rider passed by. The stranger didn't ask him anything. The 6th rider was George Washington. And as he approached the stranger turned to George Washington and said, "Sir, can I get a ride across the river?" So George Washington looked at him and said, "There were 5 riders, 5 of my friends who were before me, and I noticed you didn't ask them anything." And said, "Sir, I looked in their faces and I didn't see love." When we talk about compassion this morning, can our neighbors, can our friends, can our family see that love of Christ in you? That when Christ healed, he was always moved with compassion. Can he see that in the Church of God of Prophecy? Can they see that in your faces this morning? I wish that God would impress on us that as we talk about the poor and as we talk about the immigrants and we talk about people who look different than us, that we would always be moved with compassion. Let them see that love of Christ in your faces. And I know I didn't come here to preach this morning, but I pray that God will bless us as we think about our health. You know, why is it important that we talk about health? You know, the Apostle Paul mentioned that our bodies are the temple of the living God. I was at a conference about 2 weeks ago, and one of the pastors mentioned that he saw one of his members, whether it was a visitor, maybe a visitor, because we know that Christians don't smoke cigarettes, right? So this visitor was outside of the church, you know, just shivering as he tried to smoke his cigarette. So the pastor said, "Why are you out here? Go inside and smoke." Because a lot of us think the church is the temple, is the building, and not considering that the Apostle Paul said, "What? You don't know that your body is the temple of the living God?" And that's why we do what we do in terms of health. This is God's body. And even as we get together, I want you to remember that your body is the temple of the living God. As I share with you, what I'm going to try to do is give you some basic information about health, but I would hope that we could leave some time that you could ask some questions, because I could talk here for the entire day about health. There's a lot of information that I could share, but sometimes it might not mean anything to you. So when we get together time for questions, I want you to ask your question. It might be something that you are concerned, and I also will be around for the rest of the day to answer and, you know, personalized questions. So I don't want you to really put your business on the street, right? But sometimes you can ask a question and you can say, you know somebody who knows somebody, all right? And certainly we can have your questions answered. Right now in America, there's approximately 100,000 centurions. Let me see the hands of all those who would like to live to be 100 years old. All right. majority of us. When I asked my patients that, they said, I want to live to be that long, but I want to be in my right mind. And there are things that you could do that, to obtain that. So there's 100,000 centurions in America right now. They anticipate that that number would grow to 500,000 in the next 30 years. Whenever I'm doing this program, especially to a men's group, it brings it home to us. Because of that 100,000, 87% are women. So only 13% of men live to be 100. That's not a good thing for us, Bishop. And there's several reasons. One of the reasons is that men don't go to the doctor. Do you know that? And even when they go to the doctor, they're in and out, they don't ask questions. The majority of men who go to the doctor is either their wives or their mom or their girlfriend that tell them you should go to the doctor. It's not uncommon for a male to come and show me a little spot on his son that he's concerned about on his face. And then, he goes back home and his wife said, did you tell him that you were having chest pain? That was not important. So we don't go to the doctor and we don't ask questions. So when they did the demographics, generally, white women live the longest. And this is followed by black women. And then followed by white male. And at the bottom is black males. And there's a reason for that. When they look at the demographics, one of the reasons is white women, they go to the doctor, they ask questions because women generally ask questions. I mean to say sometimes, when they come to my office, I'm wondering, do I limit how much questions they ask? But I'm the type of person, when you come to I listen to you. So they ask questions, they go to the doctor and they have money. Black women, they go to the doctor too because women generally go to the doctor. And they do ask questions, but they don't have money. White males, they don't go to the doctor either, but they have money. Black males, they don't go to the doctor, they don't ask questions, and they don't have money. So we are in a terrible predicament. But I want you to know, when you look at the things that cause the most disease and death, I want to focus a little bit on cardiovascular disease. A lot of times, many of us, we are scared. We are scared whenever you go to the doctor and if he says the word C, the word that disease that begins with C, cancer, there is a sense of urgency. So if you see a spot or you feel something, that creates urgency. But when you think of the statistics, approximately 500,000 people die in the US every year from all the cancers combined. So it's really not your biggest problem because more than 1 million people die from cardiovascular disease. So you are more likely to die, have a heart attack or a stroke from the diseases that associate with diabetes, high blood pressure and cholesterol. You are more likely to die from these diseases. I'll share with you some colleagues and some friends. So these are not statistics that I'm reading about. Just about 6 months ago, one of my colleagues, 52 years old, he went to the airport to pick up his wife. While he was waiting in his car, the plane landed. She called him. She said, honey, I'm here, landed safely. She has to go through custom, immigration, and get her bags. By the time she came out to the car in Philadelphia in the airport, he was in a body bag. It can happen. It doesn't take much, cardiovascular disease. It doesn't take much to have a heart attack or a stroke. But a lot of these things can be prevented because you cannot just take your health for granted. In the Philadelphia Marathon about 5 years ago, there were two runners. One was a 40-year-old gentleman and a 21-year-old Drexel University student who actually ran the marathon, crossed the finish line, and he collapsed and died. Half mile out, the 40-year-old died. So cardiovascular disease, it is important that we take care of these diseases. Diabetes, high blood pressure, and strokes. They all can be prevented, but if, God forbid, that we are stricken by these diseases, we can do something about them by our lifestyle. But you have to make a commitment to lifestyle change. Unfortunately, some of us are born with certain genetic tendencies, and we know that this is all a result of sin. That we have these genetic tendencies, but you've got to know your numbers, you've got to know information about your health. So gentlemen, let it be that these, we can increase the statistics of men who live to be 100 years old, because we have followed the heathen of Paul when he said that our bodies are the temple of the living God. I just want to share with you high blood pressure. It's one of the most common diseases among us. Now, when you ask what's the ideal blood pressure, we normally say 120 over 80 as ideal. But there's a consensus statement that says the ideal blood pressure, it's the lowest blood pressure that you could have without any symptoms. So it's not a hard number, because when you think of what blood pressure is, it's the pressure that the heart has to push against to deliver oxygen and nutrition. It delivers blood to the brain and to the rest of the body. So when the pressure is high, and that's why it's called a silent killer, because a lot of time you would not know that this is happening. If it gets to the point where it's so high that you start feeling sick, you are already in a crisis. It's the leading cause of strokes. It's also the leading cause of, one of the leading causes of kidney failure. So we must have that checkup. And if you don't want to go to the doctor, just go to the pharmacy. Some of these pharmacies have little things that you can push your arm in. And even though they might not be as accurate as we would like them to be, but they give you a ballpark figure as to where you should be. And then if your blood pressure is high, even if you don't want to go to the doctor, a simple thing that you can do is cut back on the salt intake. Because a lot of us, we eat too much salt. For us who come from the Caribbean, as a matter of fact, I went to medical school at Penn State. And when I went to, one day we were gathering to make a cook. And my fellow colleagues, I just saw them went to Giant's food store, and they buy the chicken, they come and wash it and just put it in the oven. And I'm saying, are they crazy? Because I know you have to, season it up and put some nice spices and herbs, and so that when you start eating that food, you start chewing on the bones. You just can't just wash it and put it in the oven. So that's the way historically we have cooked like that. As a matter of fact, there's a historical perspective to that. And don't let them tell you that high blood pressure, that we are doomed to have high blood pressure. It's not true. A lot of it has to do with our lifestyle. There are tribes in Africa, which we are descendants from these people, who have absolutely no high blood pressure at all. But we also look at the historical perspective, because from slavery, we had to eat the parts of the meat that was not palatable, so we have to highly season it. So a lot of us inherit that from our parents, because when our parents prepare our food, it's tasty, but it's highly seasoned and full of a lot of salts. So we have to, we have to now get into the habit where we try not to have that palatable taste where there's a lot of salt in our food, because just cutting back on the salt, you can decrease your blood pressure. Another thing that we tend to take lightly is exercise.